Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 267 of a year of change and the beginning of week 39. I had completely forgotten what week it was yesterday when I was sort of finishing off the week, so I figured I would make sure that I knew what we were starting on today. So today we're going to sort of talk about, continue on what we were talking about last week, and that is protein. But I know I sort of skimmed over some stuff last week and originally had planned on revisiting it later in the week, but it turned into a whole vegetarian, vegan thing, and so it sort of went off the rails a little bit. Nose itchy. It's all right. I'm okay. But this week I want to sort of go back and revisit it. I'm not going to get too deep into the sciencey bits of it, quite frankly, because I don't know enough about it, because there's a whole slew of stuff that goes in line with protein. And although there's some stuff that's very easy to sort of summarize, when you get into the nitty-gritty details, it is well above my pay grade. And it's not something that I feel that I should actually be talking about, because you're going to call me on it. I'm not going to know what I'm talking about. You're going to say, you're full of shit. I'm going to go, I know. I'm just making the shit up as I go along. It's fine. So I want to sort of avoid that. But to start things off first, as per usual, because I keep forgetting to do this on Sundays, and I don't know why. I think it's because it's routine for me, so I just don't think to bring it up. But we need to do our weigh-in. So weigh yourself 3 times. Take the highest number. I did that this morning and did not make as much progress as I thought I was going to, which is weird because midweek I had made quite a bit of progress. I was down to 253 something. Which that was very good. I maintained throughout the entire week, and the only thing that changed up was yesterday I had shrimp, which is still very low calorie. I've been under my goal the entire week. I've pretty much had the same thing, so I thought this is great. Midweek, I'm doing awesome. I'm going to have, make plenty of progress on the weekend. Nope. I have lost less than a pound, and there's a screaming kid playing upstairs. Great. Anyway, lost a little over half a pound this week. So I'm thinking, I don't know if it's something if it's the shrimp combined with pickles, which I had pickles as well, that may have been adding to it. Maybe in my head I'm thinking, maybe I'm just hanging on to water because of the sodium, but I don't think that's it. I don't know. But I still have a couple of weeks to go to get to where I need to be. 2 weeks to get down to 6 pounds, which is a little high, but I think hopefully, if I stay on track, I'm going to get close anyway. I may not actually hit it, but I will get very, very close. So that's the main thing. But getting back to protein. Now, I'm going to sort of stick with the, proteins are building blocks, because it's really the best way to put it when we look at proteins in general, with our bodies anyway. But proteins are just long strings of amino acids. And there are about 20 amino acids that our body uses, and they have different tasks and they do different things. But there are a small number of them, about 9. It's not really small, almost half. I can do math. Almost half of them. So there's 9 amino acids that we actually can't synthesize ourselves. Our body can't make it. Everything else we seem to be generally okay with. But with these 9, we need to get it from food sources. So that's sort of what we're going to be talking about today. But just like the other stuff that we were looking at, I think the quality over quantity is probably the best method to look at here. And we've sort of done this right from day one, that it's never been really about micromanaging our food or saying, we need to cut back here, but we need to add this much here. Getting it from different sources, I think, is probably the best way. And just like when we were looking at fats, there's saturated fat and unsaturated fat. So finding the source of where you're getting it is much more important than how much, I think, in the long run. Not that there are actually good proteins and bad proteins. There's just protein. But the source of those proteins can make a big difference. And my nose is still itchy. Bah. Anyway, to give you an example, we looked at fish a long time ago when we were looking at fats, and when we were just saying, it's a better source of fat. You get your omega-3 fatty acids and omega-6 and just vegetable sources so that you can get unsaturated fat, just that we can sort of pick up on those healthier things. And we talked about cholesterol and all the other stuff. But when it comes to protein, the same sort of thing applies, but not in the exact same way. So we'll take salmon, for example. Now, salmon and beef and chicken and, any fish really, I should say, and beef and chicken and pork roughly have the same amount of protein in them. I mean, it's going to fluctuate a little bit, but it's a nominal difference in between them. So whether you're having, 100 grams of pork or 100 grams of fish, you're going to get roughly the same amount of protein. But when we look at, say, beef, for example, all right, then if you say, well, there's the same amount of protein in each one, so it doesn't really matter. But we know now that the beef has a lot of saturated fat in there, as compared to the fish. There are health benefits to the fish that sort of supersede in the beef, or what's in the beef, I should say. Where's the beef? So trying to find a better source that way, that's really all that we're talking about. Not something that's like, well, I can't have beef anymore, I have to have fish, because obviously beef, there's nothing good about it because of protein and everything else. You are going to get a little bit more protein from the beef, but the healthier choice is obviously the fish. Not that we can't have that. It's just that overall, if you're looking at it and saying, you know what, I'm going to have, beef or fish or something like that, just it's information. That's where you're getting it from. Cheddar cheese, on the other hand, is fairly high up in protein. It's higher than beef. It's higher than fish. But just already, before I even go into it, you're going, nah, that can't be a healthier option there. And it's not. There's a tremendous amount of sodium in it. It's almost all fat. There's like 30 or 35% fat in there, which, being an animal product, is still going to be saturated fat. So although you're getting, much higher protein from it, it's not going to be as beneficial as the fish. And I know the fish apparently is down here, and the cheese is up here, and the beef is over here somewhere. In my head, I have this mapped out. That's why. Sorry. So, but the good thing about this is that we don't really need to tweak a whole lot. Last week, when I said that we need to sort of go through our menu, find out what our different sources of protein is, find out what the different sources are, and see where we can tweak them. See if we can find some health benefits from that. Now, the majority of us, you've probably found that there isn't much leeway there. Because we aren't eating, steak 5 times a week. We aren't eating, peanut butter sandwiches hand over fist anymore. We've introduced so many new foods right from day one when we started looking at dates, and we did the whole soy thing with tofu and edamame and soy milk, switching from white bread to whole grain breads, all those things put in together. Because we've been making all these changes over the past few months, when you've looked at your menu, you probably didn't notice that there's anything that you can do. That you can say, well, I can sort of, I guess, I've had meat one day this week, I could cut that out. But I don't want us to ever get to that point where when you look at it and say, well, now I can't have that. Because, for example, yesterday, having pickles and shrimp. First time I've had it in a while. Well, I had it the week before. But throughout the week, I was on the same schedule throughout the entire week, and then have one day where I had something different. It's not going to make or break me. That's not the reason why I'm 3 pounds heavier than I was in the middle of the week, which drives me up a fucking wall. But my point, which I completely forgot, it's all it takes. Really quick, boop, and it's gone. Just out of the blue like that. Yes, when we're looking at our menu, there we go. Back on track. When we're looking at our menu, and you're saying, well, I could tweak here, I could tweak there, overall is really what we're looking at. So if you say, well, there's one day when I probably shouldn't have had that. But if you had a burger somewhere at a fast food place, and it's the first time you've done it in 3 months, you don't need to say, okay, well, obviously you can never do that again. No, the quality of the protein that we're getting, or the quality of the source of the protein that we're getting is what I should say, is very, very important. But it's not something that we now all of a sudden at week 39 are going to start being very strict on. And saying, all right, we need to plan our meals out, for the next 7 days. We can't deviate from that whatsoever. And if you're out somewhere, then you have to bring your own food because you can't eat whatever's in the restaurant because you don't know how it's prepared. We aren't going to all of a sudden switch to that. Over the past 9 months, we've been very, very good in keeping tiny little changes week to week and going at a pace that we know that we could stick with. And when we look back now, we've done a tremendous amount of work. We've changed a lot. Like, we don't eat anywhere near what we used to 9 months ago. We aren't living on frozen pizzas. We aren't living on TV dinners, and in my case, eating buckets of buckets of icing for a snack. So our eating habits have changed, and because of that, the sources of protein that we have now are much healthier than they were before. So we probably aren't eating as much red meat as we were before, or even as much, pork chops, generally you can say, oh, it's the other white meat, it's healthier. We probably aren't even eating that as much as we used to. Eating a lot more chicken and fish, and we've introduced more vegetables and, beans and legumes and what are the other things? Lentils, that's the other thing, and all sorts of other things. But even going way, way back when we started looking at like dates, for example, there's a little bit of protein in dates. But the stuff that we got from that, although the sugar content is insanely high, it's still better than what we were doing before, which was cookies and cakes and candy and everything else. So because of these 9 months worth of changes over the past 38 weeks that we've done, then when we look at this week and say, okay, now where are my sources of protein? Where have they been coming from? If we were to look at this 9 months ago, it would have been horrible. Yes, I mean, the majority of us would have been probably just eating peanut butter and steak would be our two sources of protein. But you probably found 5 or 6 different sources, and they're all healthier. Some are going to be better than others, but it doesn't mean that you have to cut out the bad ones. And that's not what originally I was going to do, a change this week to the food as well. But going through and looking at what we've done, there's nothing that I feel that we need to do. I mean, sure, you can look at it and say, okay, these are the top 10 most common sources of protein that I get. So I'm going to take the least healthy and throw it away. But then you're excluding that food. And I don't want us to ever exclude anything. We can certainly cut back. If you were to look at it and say, okay, well, you know what? I've had sausages 4 times in the past month. Good enough. That's once a week. It's not going to make or break you. But if you want, you could say, all right, well, you know what? I'm going to have it no more than 3 times in a month. So that whatever Saturday it was that you had sausage, at the end of the day, it was the end of your week, and you thought, this is good. I'm going to have like sausage dinner or something. Then you say, you know what? This Saturday, instead of having sausage, I'm going to have something else. I'll have, a pork chop or a steak or something. Something so that you can say, at least it's not jam-packed full of, fat and sodium and all the other stuff. But those are just the eating habits that we've developed anyway over the past few months. When you've looked at, your week and say, you know what, I had this on Tuesday, so tonight I'm going to probably have something really, really healthy and just sort of forego the plans I had to have a pizza with my friends, or your family or whatever. We've been making those changes anyway throughout the week, so I don't think that there's really any need for us to do it as a standard, okay, well, now you need to cut out one food. I never want us to get to that point where we say, well, we can't have that anymore. It's being able to say, you know what, no, I can control what I'm eating, and I'm going to have that at some point, but right now I want to stay on track with what I'm doing. You certainly have the pizza and the sausage and everything else. We aren't eating it every day for every meal all the time and in vast quantities, and that's the main thing. So, although I said that there was going to be a change yesterday, no change this week, whatever, or whatsoever. Whatever. I can't talk at all. I'm really sort of fumbling all over the place on this one, so I'm going to end this one soon. Don't worry, it's going to try to get this to be a short one. Oh, we're already at 13 minutes. Shit. So anyway, going to recap just to make sure that I get everything in here. So we do our way in. I whined about not making as progress as I wanted to, which is sort of standard. Sources of protein. You now know the name of an amino acid, so that's good. So when someone says it's the tryptophan that makes you tired, say no, it doesn't. It's an amino acid. Same amount as of that in turkey as there is in any other poultry. Make them look like a right asshole, as they really should, because I'm tired of hearing it. Really, really sick and tired of hearing it. And Mythbusters did a thing on it a while ago as well, so you can bring that up. And really just sort of the same thing as the fat, not exactly, but I've explained it, so I'm not going to do it again. The quality, like the source of our protein, is much more important, I think, than the amount. None of us in North America are really in any risk of being protein deficient. So if you look at your stats for the week on MyFitnessPal and you're saying, oh, I'm 1% below where I need to be, you're probably going to even out by the end of next week. It will fluctuate back and forth. And if it means, you know what, great, I'm going to have some more shrimp. They're really low in calorie. I get, good amino acids or good omega-3 fatty acids out of them, and good amino acids out of them as well, I guess. Then yeah, in the long run, you're going to be fine. So we'll keep on sort of this track throughout the week. This is our last week to look at sort of food macros, nutrients, whatever you want to call them. And I think that the week after that, we may start looking at other things. But we've had a long bout of looking at these little individual pieces. We've looked at sodium and sugar and fat and fiber and carbohydrates. And I feel like I'm missing one. Protein, obviously. But there's another one that I feel like I'm missing, and I don't know what it is. Anyway, but we've looked at all those, and I think we have a much better understanding as to how our diet is formed and how it's working for us. So it's a little easier for us to make those changes, and we're going to be able to see, yes, I need to change this or I need to change that. But overall, if you're looking at it saying, you know what, it doesn't look bad. I'm getting healthy sources. I'm getting a wide variety of things. So those 9 amino acids that our bodies can't produce, we're eventually going to get them from all the different sources that we've been eating. And we've introduced a lot of new foods into our diet as well, so that's been helpful. And just overall, we're eating much, much better than we were, even a few months ago. But let alone when, think back a year before we started this, how we were eating just on a daily basis. And it's amazing how far that we've come. So I want to keep on going. We've got another 12 weeks after this one. So I think we can still do it. Should be fine. And hopefully I will make progress and get to my halfway point. I still have another couple of weeks to go. And I'm really just kind of hoping that it's something I'm missing that's caused me to only lose half a pound. That's still half a pound of fat. That's still like a handful of fat. So I should shut the hell up and be grateful. But you know what it's like? It's never, ever, 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 ever fast enough. So anyway, but we're going to keep going throughout this week and keep touching on little things here and there. But overall, I think we're doing okay. Our diet is where it needs to be. We're getting enough fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. We have our good days. We have our bad days. But the good days now are far outweighing the bad by a long shot. So I'm going to leave this video here because otherwise I'm going to keep on rambling and repeating myself over and over and over. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video.